Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris again here at the Jacks Rangers show. Today I'm joined with Chris Lind as an interviewee for the first time ever. Chris, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Let's start out with telling the folks, the Rangers out there, where you're from.
All right. I am from Hooksett, New Hampshire, but I currently reside in Manchester, and I have lived in New Hampshire my entire life.
It's beautiful here, man. I moved here 11 years ago. I never want to leave.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Unfortunately, I will add that people are starting to discover the Shire. House prices are up unbelievably.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't blame them. It's nice up here, but I wish they wouldn't flock here in droves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for a while, unfortunately. I heard that this has nothing to do with the podcast, but I heard like there's 20,000 houses that were not built during the time where like the demand started to rise. So that's why the prices are going up. There's just not enough houses for the people that want to purchase them. So,
yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with remote working as well. And
yeah.
People are, and our population is aging, and this is like, we're not vacation land like Maine, but It's very beautiful up here, and people are realizing that. And so they're like, hey, I'm going to go live there. So,
yeah, it's a smart move, but yeah, there's not a lot of housing for people at the moment. So,
no.
Tell us your origin story with rugby.
All right. So I started playing in the spring of 2005. I was just in high school. I was a junior. I played high school football like most American males do. And a friend of mine, he ran into my now friend, mentor, and high school coach. He ran into him. He worked at a sports store, and he was buying stuff from him, and he was like, hey, you're a big kid, we got a high school rugby team, you should come play. And we were doing a project, and I was like, hey man, so when are we doing this project? He's like, I don't know, I'm skipping out on the time I'm going to play rugby. And I was like, what's that? And YouTube was like in its infancy, but he sent me a YouTube video, and I watched it, and I was like, that seems pretty wild, can I come? And he was like, yep. And so I was driving on my own, but we didn't have a lot of family cars. So my dad drove me over to practice because he was interested. He wanted to check it out. And I remember like I was about the same size I am now. And I'm about 6'1", 220. And that's about the size I was at 17 too. And I remember this coach, when I met coach the first time, he shook my dad's hand and said, thank you for bringing him. And I had no idea what was going on. And then it's just been one thing after another from there, and I'm still here involved in the game 15 years later. So
that's awesome, man. What have you been up to in the silly season?
I haven't been up to much, man. I've just been working, trying to stay in tune as much as I can with the team. I follow a lot of the stuff that you post, and then the team page. And then I'm actually working. We're starting to get our high school team fired back up again. We're in talks with another high school group from the Seacoast in New Hampshire to kind of maybe at some point join forces, but at least now train together in the winter to split the cost, because obviously it's very cold outside in New Hampshire and you cannot play. I mean, we could play outside right now, but in a couple of weeks there's going to be snow, and so outdoor training won't be an option. And why not just train indoors in short sleeves and actual rugby shorts, and our hands aren't freezing off. So yeah, we're getting ready to do that. So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Awesome. That's great. Hope that is successful. We need more youth teams in New Hampshire. I mean, there's very few right now. So the more the merrier for sure with that. Let's build them up for sure. Talk about your experience overall with New England rugby, right? From your years from, high school age all the way to when you stopped playing. Talk about that.
I think that it's a fun area of the country to play in. I've met people from other areas. I don't know, I'll refer to them as regions of the country. I think now out in California and NorCal and SoCal, it's getting pretty big. But I would always say that like it's just kind of fun. Like Rugby South, like where you're from, I don't think it has been a big thing until recently. Like when I played in high school, I didn't really know about a lot of the teams from the South. A lot of the big time college teams weren't from the South. And then like Life University, Lindenwood, all those teams started popping up and getting really good. I don't know. I would just say it's very fun. It's very fortunate for rugby players in New England, because whether you're at the high school level or college or even men's, our region is not that big. And so you're crossing, you're playing teams from 3, 4, 5 different states. Like the high school team that my friend John and John started it. I joined up with him to coach. We started, and at first we only played teams in New Hampshire, and there was only like 2. And then, by the time of our final season before the pandemic, we were playing in a varsity league in Connecticut and playing against some of the top high school teams in the Northeast. And then we didn't get to play in their leagues because Massachusetts had enough teams. So they're like, you can't be a part of the league, but we'll play you. And we played, I think it's called Myro. So we played a couple Myro teams, and they're pretty cool. They let us play them. And that's kind of how it was for me in high school too. I never got to play any teams from Connecticut, but like when I was in high school, we played St. John's Prep, BC High, Arlington Catholic, Central Catholic. So it was pretty cool. I just think that it's a hotbed. There's so many teams, and there's so many divisions. Like when I was in college, we had Division 1, your Dartmouths, UNH at the time, Norwich at the time, no longer, but we had a pretty strong showing from the top to the bottom on the national level. So those teams would make, Final Four, Sweet 16, stuff like that, all the way to small school. Like I went to Plymouth State. We were small school national champions in 2008. So, and that's actually a real national championship now. Like when we won it, it was really just like the best of the East Coast. Nobody came from out West because the D3 game just didn't really exist out there. So yeah, that's how I'd describe it.
Yeah. Funny story about you playing for a national championship. The opposing coach is now the coach at Carolina. I'm on the rugby board there at the University of South Carolina, alumni there. But our new head coach, who's an alumni of Carolina, was at Furman coaching them against you back in the day. That's pretty wild.
Oh, no kidding. Small rugby world. Yeah, we broke their hearts. I felt bad for them because they had lost the year before as well to the representative from New England. But you want to bring that full circle. So the year before, he coached against Josh Smith, the first coach of the Free Jacks, when he was coaching. It wasn't who was it? Bentley College.
Okay.
And then because they had won like 2 back-to-back, or they had made like the Final Four back-to-back years, they forced them to move up to Division 2. They're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You're clearing us out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he won several national championships, just not in the time frame that you're talking about. Yeah. So
they're always been very good, I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually created the pitch down there and like funded it. So they named it after him. It's pretty wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very cool. Let's talk about what do you feel like your greatest accomplishment as a player, not just in college, what about men's club, all of that combined? What's your greatest accomplishment?
I would have to say it was definitely our small school national title. That was just a fun run of games, and it was a good time. I got really badly hurt, but I kept playing. So that was that's a cool story to tell. I broke my face in 3 spots and I didn't know. So I just kept playing. Wow. And then at the end of the game, my eye was like swollen shut, but we won. So it was over. The 7-hour bus ride back to New Hampshire, partied up. And then the next morning I felt awful, and I was in the hospital, and they were like, hey, your nose isn't broken, man. It's your face. I'm like, ouch. Yeah. So that would be the best one, I guess. And then another one was playing for Mystic too. Just being able to be on such a good club at the time. They were up and coming. So I had played college, and then I forewent my senior year at college to play men's league. I played for Amoskeag, and we were like a middle of the road / lower tier D1 team. We were okay. A lot of good guys. I loved playing with them. It was awesome. And then we we didn't play playoffs. We didn't make playoffs as Amoskeag. And then that was my senior year, and Mystic was down some players, and a buddy of mine had started playing with them, and he was like, hey, come to training, and it's rugby. So at the time, I always had a pair of boots and shorts in the car, so I was ready to rock and roll. So I went down there and got a run in with them, and they were like, hey man, you're not so bad. Do you want to come out and play? What's your deal? And I was like, well, I'm graduating college right now, so I can't make your playoff game. But I'll come back and I'll see you guys in the fall. And I played pretty much one fall and spring with them, and that was also a very fun time. I got to play against Nyack, all those other, good clubs, some USA level players. And I was not as good as them, but it was fun to play against them.
Right. Yeah.
Be on the same field as them. So that was cool.
Yeah, man. I tell people all the time, like when I graduated from Carolina and moved up here, if I was going to play rugby, it was going to be like at a D3, just like a social level. And at that time, Amoskeag, which is here in Manchester, they were in D1. So they were trying to compete with these big Boston teams. And I
Yeah.
went out to one of their practices. I was like, this is not for me. Like, I was just
Yeah.
like, this is way too intense for the level that I wanted to play.
Mm.
So I never played with them. And that's because, they were trying to be a D1 powerhouse. And I was just
Yep.
looking for like a D3 experience, like a social club experience. So yeah, that pretty much ended my rugby career in terms
Yeah.
of like, because there's no other club nearby other than like Seacoast / Freedom, but that's like what, 30 minutes one way. I didn't really
Yeah.
want
It's
to do that.
tough.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, kind of going back to one of your questions before. Like, I think that also the New England region is extremely competitive.
Mhm.
Especially at all levels, even the social levels, those teams are pretty competitive. And
Right.
yeah, I think, in Manchester, there was just not a lot, the same level of athlete pool than down in the Boston area, and
Right.
and then the collegiate pool too. Like you know, all the guys coming out of all the Massachusetts colleges, if they're staying, I'm going to go get a job in the Boston area. And at the time when I was out, you could play for Middlesex Barbarians, who's no longer a club. They merged with Mystic, but you could play at Mystic. You could play for Boston. You could play for the Wolfhounds if you're down the South Shore and you didn't want to fight through the traffic, So
Right.
it was like you had a lot of options, and all those teams were D1, so it was
Yeah.
it was fun.
I'm sure it was, man. Like I love that picture of you that we're gonna use where
Oh
you got the
boy.
Mystic jersey on, the kit, and it says Miller Lite on the front. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that was testing my memory. I've been hitting the head a bunch of times. We'll see. I think that was against um Nova, so Northern Virginia, and I
Yes.
believe that was the round of 32. Might have been round of 16, but they came up to Pine Banks, and I was just a substitute in that game. I came on probably, I think, like the 60th minute, and I caught a pass, just a little inside ball, and they were like primarily their team had a lot of Islanders, and they were very like sevens built. They were built for speed,
Right.
and so we ground out the win. I think we won comfortably. Can't remember the score line, but yeah, not a good tackling team, Nova. At least not that year, because I'm very slow, and I busted through those two tackles and went on to dish it, and then it got dished again, and we scored a try off of that. So I love that picture. It was a good action shot.
Hell
Makes me look like an athlete, but
yeah. Right.
the
Um,
glory days. Cue the Springsteen.
right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna be reliving my glory days down at Carolina this weekend. I'm going down for alumni weekend for Carolina Rugby. So it's the first time I've ever attended an alumni weekend for Carolina Rugby. So it should be a lot of fun.
Well, that's good, man. Hope you have a good time. Alumni weekends can't beat them.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me, so, we've talked about this before. You're the first person to provide feedback on the Jacks Rangers show. I asked for feedback. You were readily available for that. We appreciate that always, of course. How did you stumble upon it, the show that is, and what drew you into the content?
You know, I just thought it was cool that someone was well, hold on. First things first. How did I find the show? To be honest with you, I cannot remember. I think I want to say, like, I saw that you had shared one of the Free Jacks posts or something to
Yeah.
that effect. And I was like, hey, what's this? And then, I saw it. And at the time I was recently home from training, and I was like, hey, all right, cool. And I like to listen to podcasts on the way in to when I was going to work. We were still doing vaccinations up here in New Hampshire, running vaccination sites, the National Guard. I'm in the Guard.
Mhm.
And so I was running one of those, and I was just listening to the podcast. And so I was like, hey, I'll give it a listen. And when I listened, I thought it was like a pretty interesting. I think I found you when you were at like episode 3. I want
Okay.
to say it was 3. So I just binged listened through the first one, and then I listened to the second one on the way home. And you were asking for feedback. And so I was like, I mean, I'm not, this is not throwing shade. I was like, how big can this podcast really be? And I was like, so I'm just going to toss some feedback out there and see what happens. And I was like,
Right.
if the guy thinks if the guy thinks I'm a weenie and doesn't respond to me, like, oh, well, I'll just keep listening to the show, because I thought that the show was interesting. And
Yeah.
I thought it was cool, like, that you got people from the club and from the organization on the podcast. And so I was just like, hey, if he wants to get better, I was like, this is what I noticed. I was like, and maybe this is just me. And I don't know. I was like, this is my opinion. And so I sent you the feedback, and you were like, yeah, I'm gonna do that or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
or you were like, nah, I mean, yeah, but what are you gonna do? And it was good. I just like the banter, and I don't know. It gave me something to get involved in, so I just followed on from there.
yeah. It's been awesome to have you on the show as a guest outrider. You've jumped in on some interviews as well when in Dave's absence. So it's been awesome. It's very cool that we actually live in the same town, and we actually met each other at one of the games. I can't remember which one it was, and I got you on.
Nola, I think.
Yeah, that might
Nola,
have been it.
yeah.
And I got
Yeah.
you on to do like a prediction before the game, and you were standing beside of me, and you were like, "Do you remember what you said?"
Jack's by foe.
Yeah, yes, but you were like, "Oh, you're a lot taller than I figured you
Oh
were."
yeah. Yeah, and it freaked me out. I don't know why, but like I was just like, I mean, because well, the thing was, is you had said on your show, you even said before I played second row, and
Yes.
listen, I played second row at 6'1", which I really, I mean, when there's levels to the game, and you don't see any internationals at 6'1" at second row, and there's a
Right.
reason for that. I just played it because I didn't mind grinding it out there on all levels that I played, but. I mean, you had mentioned that, so I just should have figured that you were going to be like 6'3" or something or plus, you know. But I don't know why I was surprised. But
Yeah,
that was genuine, though. I was like, "What?"
yeah. Your reaction, you did seem surprised, but it was it was just very funny. I remember that. What else was I going to say to you? What was your favorite moment from last season for the Jacks, and tell us your overall impression of the first full season?
Yeah. So, what was the first part about it again?
What was your favorite moment from last season?
I think my favorite moment was just my first game. You know, as many American rugby fans, I'm sure, can relate with me on this one, especially people who have been following the game for a long time. There's been a lot of iterations of or attempts at, you know, like pro rugby. There was like, you know, there used to be like different divisions at the top level of men's club, but it was always the same clubs, and it was club. And then pro rugby was around for a while, and it's all just never come to fruition. So like parking my car at Fort Union Point and rolling up on the first pro rugby game, like I didn't have high expectations. Like I didn't think that it was going to be this like, you know, I knew I wasn't going to a Red Sox or a Celtics or a Bruins game or a Patriots game, but you know, I was just excited that there are professional athletes from all around the world on both sides every weekend, playing really good rugby. And I just thought, I hope this can continue, because, you know, we've talked sidebar conversations off the show about this, how it's up and comers like Jan Conradi, like trying to break into upper echelon competitions, and like, hey, this is game film for this guy. Right. It's people like that, but it's also people like, the Aussie Stars they got out there on the Giltinis. Ew. Oh, the Giltinis. Ew. The name just kills me. But anyway, you're right. Yeah. Out there in Los Angeles.
Yes.
But you know, and guys on their way out, and they're doing a retirement tour, like, and they're just coming to try to help grow the game and get some footy in. And so I was just, that first game that I went to was pretty exciting. I went to the Arrows game when we played the Arrows, and I thought that was a great match. Well fought. It was a little cold, and then like the next time they played, it was super hot. And yeah. And then just my overall impression is like, I just love how it just keeps growing. You can see like how it keeps evolving. You know, like little things you notice, people commenting online, and they take that feedback and then they make the improvements, or they take the feedback for what it is. Sometimes it's trolling, and they're just like, all right, well. And they move on with it. But I just like the whole vibe of it, man. Like, especially shows like this where you're getting the captain of the team, the CEO of the team, the performance manager of the team, that they're willing to reach out to people and interact and engage. I think that that's rugby in the United States. It's a very engaging, like very inclusive, like, hey, like, you want to talk to me? Cool. Let's talk. And that's a kind of that's a very American rugby vibe to it. And I like that as well.
For sure. I mean, you're not going to get Robert Kraft on a podcast that you just started up about the Patriots. You know, it's just not going to happen. So it's an awesome experience. I mean, we're all involved in this at the ground level. We're building it up, and there's been progression. I expect progression next year as well. With, you know, the fan experience at Fort Quincy is going to be better than it was at Fort Union Point for sure. And you know, I expect the product on the field to be better as well. I mean, this is the city of champions, right? So I expect us to make the playoffs, and I think everybody should, as a Ranger out there, should expect the minimum expectation for this team should be playoffs, right? To try to get a chance at winning a shield. So I'm just excited, man, for the season. I know a lot of people are. It's pretty quickly approaching. It's been a long off season, right? But we can kind of see the finish line here, and I'm really fired up about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm honestly excited for the league to keep expanding. Like Dallas is finally getting added this year.
Right.
I know, again, longtime American rugby fans will know what I'm talking about. There were Chicago Lions and Chicago Griffins. I'd love to see Chicago get a club going,
Yep.
Get a franchise out there soon, and I just hope it just keeps growing. And also, sidebar with Rugby Rant podcast, I'm hoping for you to get back on there and get a couple dubs for us here. I fully expect that as a growth as well. I think you were cheated before, but well, that's a story for another time.
I feel like the guests don't win. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of their stuff. I mean, I love what they're doing. I'm glad that they're like the champions of American rugby shows out there. At least it seems that way. Scott has been awesome with us and helping us out over here, but I think it's just like they never pick the guests. I could be wrong, but and also at the same time, like when I'm formulating like what I'm going to talk about, my thought is like, oh, I want to win. I want to get by and not sound like an idiot. Basically, I just don't want to like fall on my face. So
when you want to talk about growth, that's what you do for the first time out. The second time out, now we're building.
Yeah,
now we're winning.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I think we're going to build. I think that the Jax Ranger Show host Phil Harris is going to be the first guest to take down a dub on the Rugby Rant. You heard it here first. That's my prediction.
Would be cool. That would be awesome for the show. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll think about that and hope for that in the future as a future goal. That's a good idea, Chris. I appreciate that. So again, you're providing this feedback, and I'm listening, and I'm taking this in, and we'll try to get better for sure.
I just wish my mustache game was as strong as yours.
I'll tell you. Obviously, the mustache is very trendy. I've had it for like on and off for like a couple of years now, and the reason for that is the first time that I've mentioned this anywhere maybe. Is I have a problem growing in a beard. Okay. So I'm not a real big beard guy anyway. I love the stash, but I mean, the reason I've settled on this facial hair is it's just not a big growing a beard type of guy. It doesn't really come in very well. I guess that's my Appalachian DNA, but it doesn't grow in well right in this area. It looks bad. So yeah, I mean, I love the mustache, man. I think it's here to stay. I don't know if you were with me, but somebody was like, "Oh, you're growing it out for Movember or whatever," and I didn't say anything at the time, but I was like, "Nah, man, this is here to stay. Like, this thing ain't going anywhere. It's on the freaking."
I really wish that I could grow a mustache, but basically the way you described your beard is my entire facial hair situation, and now obviously. For those watching the video, I have also no hair on my head, yet I have extremely bushy eyebrows. So I mean, you can't pick these things.
Yes.
Luckily, I have a nice round head. I look nice bald, but sometimes I wish I could rock that mustache just for some fun and for some antics, but
hey, man.
Nope.
Again, it all came about because I couldn't grow a beard and I was a little self-conscious about it. So I just grew the mustache. So yeah, do whatever works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure. So let's talk about who's your favorite player on the Free Jacks? I don't think I've ever talked to you about this.
Oh, my favorite player. I don't know why, but I'm going to sound like a homer here, I guess, but I really like Josh Larson, man, for the engine room. Let's go. El Capitan. You know what I mean? He's a hard-nosed player, and you've had him on the show a couple of times. And,
yes.
He's not flashy. He's just a dog, man. He goes to work. And I just have a special appreciation for that because that's what I did. Like, I'm not the guy. I don't have a lot of carries when I played. And so, I mean, not to make it about myself, but it's just like when you're watching a game, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm more in tune with people that played the game like I did. Right. Obviously, he's much better, like levels, like multiple
international player, sure.
multiple levels. But like he's just a workhorse, man. He gets after it, and then a close one. I'll call him 1 and 1A is his second row partner, Jackson Thebes, man.
There you go.
He gets after it, and he quietly goes about his business. And what a story. A football player, played for Montana, was playing at Endicott College. Fun fact, I actually refereed a game when he was playing for Endicott against Plymouth State. I refereed a game with him in it. He was an absolute monster.
Wow.
Crushed. I mean, it was a D3 game, and I was a last-minute ref, so I didn't really give as many cards as I probably should have. But he not only was winning penalties, but he probably should have been responsible for a bunch of people going to the sin bin for professional fouls, because they couldn't keep him off the ball. He was a poaching machine, at least at that level, obviously. Yeah, so I really like those engine room boys. Those are my guys.
I really rarely say second row as my favorite players, but yeah, I mean, having played second row lock when I was a young man, and Josh Larson is just the utmost professional, like behind the scenes guys, like, when we're talking to him and interacting with him on social media and stuff like that, he is with it, man. Like he's going to be there when we ask him to be there. He doesn't get paid for any of these appearances or whatever, but he is just always spot on, always willing to help out and jump on the podcast, the show here, and, promote the Free Jacks and that sort of thing. So it's really hard to look away from him. I agree, man. Like, and he's just one of those guys. He's not, like you said, he's not flashy. There's no ego there. You can tell why he's a great captain, because, he's just a great example of, leadership and professionalism and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Have you ever heard of Johnny Eales?
Who's that?
He was a former captain of Australia. And when I first got into rugby, DVDs, right? Oh my God, what are those? Yep. But DVDs, I bought a DVD, an All Blacks DVD, and it was like highlights, but they play Australia, obviously, all the time. And that was like where I fell in love with like second rowers, was Johnny Eales, like watching him play. He's a former captain of Australia, number 5 for them. And he was their goal kicker, believe it or not. What? Yes. During the early Tri-Nations, he was their goal kicker because the dude had a boot. And yeah, I don't know. So I just love the position. I love the engine room. Some at 6'1", I always, I could moonlight and play blindside flanker, but I loved playing second row. Yeah. It was definitely my home, and so I'm a homer. And so when I'm seeing those second rows out there getting good carries, or just a little dish inside, the soft touch from the big man. Yeah, I like that to enable the try.
Very cool, man. Very cool. What out of all the players that have been announced, who are you most excited about? Whether it be somebody that has been retained or a new player coming in.
So I don't know much about the new players coming in, and I haven't looked into them. And so shame on me. I got to do some homework, but I'm super excited about Walker coming back. Yeah. Again, don't know much about him or his career other than he was in New Zealand, and he plays in the just a one level below Super Rugby there. But that's still an insanely high level compared to, like, I feel like, what is it? The Mitre 14?
I think it used to be called the Mitre Cup. I don't think that's it anymore. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know either. Yeah. But either way, he plays in I think it's the New Zealand Provincial League, yes. Whatever their sponsor is now. And it's a really high level. And, he came up here, he played one season in New England, and I don't want to say I didn't expect him to come back, but it's just like, that's a pretty high caliber. And so I was excited to see him come back, because I feel like he's so versatile, like Dougie Fife. You know what I'm saying? They're so versatile. They can play multiple positions, and they give the coaching. And so that's the other thing too. The coach, I was super excited about Scott Matthew coming on. Again, starting to look into these folks, but I'm super excited. I think the Free Jacks, because I've been loosely paying attention to the other clubs, and I think that the Free Jacks are evolving and pushing that envelope. We want seasoned veterans, but we want up and comers, and then we're mixing in Americans in the fold. So they're doing all the things that the league said that the league wanted to do. Right. And I really appreciate all of that. And they're also creating a winning formula out of it. So super excited. But yeah, I would have to say Walker coming back I was super happy to see that.
It's hard to look away from him, man. He was so vital for us last season, whether it be the kicking boot or making things happen on our offensive runs there. It's called the Bunnings NPC now, so it's no longer the Mitre Cup. I was right, but yeah, there must be some sort of sponsor that bought the rights to it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to look away from him or Dougie Fife as the most exciting guys that's going to be returning. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see, because Scott Matthew has talked about what he wants this team to look like through the interviews through us here at the Jack Stranger Show, and the word that he mentioned several times was physicality. Like, that is so important to him. So I'm excited to see us like punch people in the mouth, but at the same time, I still want that razzle dazzle with the backs play, to just have a lot of running rugby. So I expect the forwards to just dominate and throw the ball out wide. Let's see some exciting tries. That's what I want for the team next year.
Yeah, and there's different, as we were talking about the captain Josh Larson, and just being such a workhorse and a consummate professional, there's different types of leadership as well. And so you have these guys that have been exposed to maybe higher level competitions than some of their teammates, and they're able to pass that on, just how to be a pro or how to be better at whatever it is. And they're bringing that knowledge and experience. And when you have that knowledge and experience, you're kind of leading the way in that avenue. And so that's really good to have on the team, to have some, maybe they're not super old, but they know what they're talking about, their experience, to have that experience in the locker room. So I'm excited for that as well.
Absolutely. I know that you've had some hot takes about USA Rugby lately. You want to air any of those on the show here? Obviously, this is not a USA Rugby show, but what do you make of this disaster that is USA Rugby right now?
Hey, at least we're not Rugby Canada.
Yeah,
so we'll start there. Yeah. Sorry, Josh Larson. I feel bad for you, man. Like, you're a great player, and Canada is a good team, and it's a good rivalry we have with them. But I just think that it's embarrassing. All the credit in the world to Uruguay, to Chile. They're outstanding rugby teams. Clearly, they're getting better, and they're taking notes. Maybe they're taking their beatings from Argentina A, and they're figuring it out.
Right.
It just boggles my mind how the USA hasn't got there. The only reason I can see for that is just that we have so many other sports competing for our athletes that maybe Chile and Uruguay don't have. It's like down there, it's what, baseball, soccer,
right,
and then rugby.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, but we've got lacrosse, we've got soccer, football, baseball, basketball. We've got and even some other sports that are I would say, I hate to call rugby a fringe sport, but let's just be real. It is a fringe sport. And so, but you've got wrestling is also a fringe sport. So we've got so many of these other things. Like, I don't know where Uruguay and Chile are at with wrestling, but I probably would venture to say the USA would spank them pretty bad. And so it just bothers me that we're losing to teams I feel like we shouldn't lose to.
Yeah.
And I think, but I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not there. I have some friends that have some loose connections or not loose, pretty tight connections to USA Rugby. They kind of have an idea of what's going on there. I just don't know what to say. I'm embarrassed. Hopefully we make the World Cup. If us and Canada both get shut out, I think that's an embarrassment for North American rugby, and that's just my opinion.
It's unfathomable, but it's a possibility at this point. We can't rule it out. I mean, obviously Canada is not going to make it, but USA, I mean, they still have to beat Chile.
Yep, they do. Yeah, and you know what? And if the Chileans make it, good for them. Hell yeah, good for them, and good for Uruguay. They deserve it. Right. If they get there and they won, they deserve it. That's why you play the qualifiers. That's why those nations, we're not Six Nations, and we're not Rugby Championship. We don't get automatic bids. We got to earn our way, and they earn their keep. And this is not to disparage any of the players that play USA Rugby. Man, be proud. Like, you're representing your country. You're the best we got. And maybe it's the game plan. Maybe it's the coaching. Maybe it's our country is just so large and you guys don't get to play together a lot. There's a lot of different things it could be. Maybe it's money, because USA is bankrupt and like multiple times now. I just can't afford to put together the training camps and get everybody together. The only thing that I can just hope is, as the MLR grows and professionalism grows and these guys can just focus more and more of their time on rugby. I think that's the goal, right? That
for sure.
So we get better. I'm hopeful for the future, disappointed in the present.
I mean, that's a great way to sum it up. I mean, it's embarrassing, and you have to be disappointed with what's going on currently, but you just have to hope for better things in the future. Hopefully we can get there. I know that the Halloween episode with the Scrum of the Earth podcast, I was able to join in with Dave on that. And we did a couple of things, and then we got into USA Rugby, and I absolutely ripped and buried USA Rugby because it was like pretty quickly removed from the New Zealand debacle where we got beat by like 100 points or whatever. So I was I was burying them, and you know he didn't keep that in the episode. Maybe that was for the best, but yeah, man, this is the key word is embarrassing. It is embarrassing.
Yeah.
All
you know what's even more sad about the New Zealand loss is that was the first time we'd ever scored a try against them.
Yeah.
And that gets overshadowed by how bad we got beat down.
Yeah.
You know, and those guys are on holiday over here, you know, too. Don't forget, everybody, don't forget, the Irish beat New Zealand All Blacks the first time in Chicago in the United States.
Yep.
You think that had something to do with the All Blacks or in the United States and having a good time and partying up? And probably didn't take them too seriously because the very next week or like 2 weeks later in Dublin, they absolutely beat the brakes off the Irish and left them for dead. So they're just saying, you know, that's a New Zealand team that's coming over here probably having a good time too. You know? It's just like we still lost. But hey, on that note, the 1874 Cup, Army sunk Navy. So
there you go.
Let's go. Let's go Army.
Go Army, beat Navy always.
That's it. Yeah.
So
hey, nobody plays Navy growing up. Just a quick plug.
Right. Got them. All right. Before we get you out of here, let's talk about your new podcast that you started up recently. I'm drinking a beer. I have been throughout this. This is Phone Home by Night Shift Brewing. Not a sponsor, but it's delicious. Talk about your podcast.
All right. So it's called the Bald Guy Beer Review. It's me and a good old buddy of mine named Alan. We're bald and we're guys, and we review beers. So I used to work in alcohol production in the beer industry, and I'm a huge beer nerd. So inspired by your podcast, I was like, why not just do a podcast about beer? Yeah, but Phone Home, peanut butter stout, Night Shift Brewing out there in Everett, Massachusetts. Check them out if you like it.
Delicious.
Yep. I got a Massachusetts beer myself. I'll hold it up for the camera. Also not sponsored, but I got Doom Sauce by Lord Hobo, brewed in the hills of Woburn, Massachusetts. Nice. So if you don't know, Woburn is a town that sits in the hills just outside Boston, north of Boston. So check them out. They also make a nice beer called Boom Sauce. So this is Doom Sauce. It's the darker version. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So we just so the goal with the podcast is to drink and review beers, and then also, you know, make it slightly like educational about learning about craft beer, different styles, introducing people, tell them maybe some of the history of what they're drinking, and then talk to the brewers because I know a lot of people and they are interested in coming on my show. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited for you, Chris, because I know, as you were saying, you were inspired by the Jack's Rangers show to do your own thing. And I was inspired by the Spurs Up show. It's a Carolina athletics podcast for the Gamecocks. It's a hugely successful. Carolina just beat Florida over the weekend in football, like 40-17. So everybody was calling in and very excited. The Monday for the Daily Crow, which is something that he does every single day, Monday through Friday. So yeah, I was inspired by him. So it's one of those things where you got to pay it forward a little bit and help out somebody that's asking for help if they're looking to, you know, start a podcast, that sort of thing. So I was very happy to give you any advice that you needed with regard to, you know, how to get this thing up and rolling and off the ground. And I'm excited for you, man. You know, rugby and alcohol have a very close connection, as you know. Like, there's not a lot of people that are like in the program, AA or sober, that are involved in rugby. It's an interesting thing. It goes together like peanut butter and jelly. It really does. So yeah, I think we should do some collabs in the future. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the kind words. Quick shout out to the South and their culture of college football.
Yeah.
Wasn't really aware of that. Spent some time recently down in the South. I was in Georgia and met some people from Alabama who does not have a professional football team. And you're literally either Roll Tide or War Eagle down there, and it runs deep. So
yes,
it's a pretty cool environment. Honestly, I'm not even like a huge college football fan, but I'm about to be. I would love to go to an SEC game, you know.
I hear you, man.
I'm just super excited. So I'm going to start looking into that. Maybe take a trip.
Yeah, man, I can't recommend the Gamecocks more. It's in my blood. I've got 2 Carolina tattoos. I went there. My family's gone there. So if you're looking for a team to pull for, there's no better fan base than the University of South Carolina Fighting Gamecocks. Now, the football on the field is not always the best. You're not going to get a national championship anytime soon. But if that's not really important to you, there's no better place than Columbia on a Saturday to watch Carolina football.
Sounds good. I'm probably going to check them out.
Good idea. So before we get you out of here, one word association. So I'll say a word or 2 words. First thing that pops in your mind, throw it back at me. 1 word.
I should be good for this. I don't know. We'll see. I'm ready.
You've been listening a lot to the show, so I know you know how it works.
Yeah, I do. All right. I'm ready. Send it.
Here we go. New England.
Duncan's.
All right. Boston.
Baked beans. 2 words.
Right.
Sorry.
MLR.
Ooh. I don't know. I just got it's rugby. It's got to be.
That's fine. That's fine.
I know that's been used before, but
U.S. Army.
oh man, number 1.
You got it.
But if
for sure.
yeah, but you got to be infantry. If you're not, then that sucks.
All right. Mystic River.
Go blue. It's 2 words, but too bad.
Free Jacks.
Let's ride. Again, 2 words, but
2 words, man. All right, that's okay. All right, cool, man. This has been awesome. We appreciate your time very much. Thank you for all the feedback that you provide to the show. Thank you for helping out whenever we ask you to jump in if we need you. And yeah, this has been awesome, man. Of course, we'll say 1 word to get you out of here, and I know you know what it is. 3,
I'm ready.
2, 1. Huzzah!
Huzzah!